What's up, everybody? Garrett back here, and we are at RAD Recommendations episode 12. And my special guest tonight is actually the dude who just covered that song that you just heard at the beginning here, Mr. CHH himself, Christian. Now, guys, if you don't know this guy, I thought this was kind of the perfect storm. He recently just kind of rebranded his channel a little bit. And that's when I kind of realized how much love for this movie we're going to talk about he had. And I knew he needed to be my guest because this movie was on a list of movies I wanted to talk about in this RAD recommendation series. So, again, my guest is Mr. CHH. If you don't know him, Christian, tell him a little about you and what you're doing over there on YouTube.
Well, yes, sir. Glad to be here, obviously, especially talking about this movie. My name's Christian. Everybody calls me CHH. That's kind of my moniker, Christian Hannah Horror, but nobody likes to say that. It's way too many syllables and just takes too long to say. So people say CHH. The channel name is called Planet CHH now because I'm bringing you into my world, opening my world up a little bit and letting you see my love for obviously action films, which I'm a maniacal action movie fan. Real action, not that bullshit we get now, Hobbs and Shaw. Come on, real action. You know, I love all this stuff, and obviously horror is still a really big thing for me too. But yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to be able to do this now, and I feel if I hadn't rebranded a little bit, I wouldn't be here right now, which would be a bummer. So that's where we're at right now, I guess, man.
Yeah, definitely. I've known him for a little while, and we've talked about maybe getting on this show and doing something. And it was just kind of trying to find something horror related that we both kind of liked that we didn't find that many people talked about or liked. And the scope of that was just a little bit narrow, so that's why it took us so long. But now with a little bit of a rebranding and showing people how much you love, things like this kind of action that we're going to talk about, it just opened up a lot of doors. Because again, for me too, like, horror is my favorite overall, and it's always been, but man, just nostalgia and growing up with just these other genres and stuff that just means so much to me. I just felt like it kind of just worked out really well, because the one we're going to talk about today is one that I actually saw in theaters, and it was one of my earlier real I'm going to say introductions to Arnold. Now, for me, the first time I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger that I can remember was Kindergarten Cop. My parents took me to see that in the theaters, and that was kind of my introduction to him, I believe, at that time. That's the memory I remember. And then obviously Terminator 2 came out, so that was a big thing. But at the time, I was just so young that I ended up seeing Terminator 2 like once it hit television, taped it, fell in love with it. And then this was kind of the next one that I went to the theaters to check out. And man, I absolutely loved it. And being a kid, it was kind of everywhere. Like, it was toys. I think like Burger King did stuff with it. And I absolutely love this one. And I know it was kind of a bomb at the time, especially because I believe it did come out, I think, the week after Jurassic Park. So it got kind of smoked in the box office and became kind of a butt of the joke in the action genre. But watching this now as an adult, I still have a fond, memory for it. And I think that this was way ahead of its time, looking back on it now. Now, Christian, what's your history with Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Wow. Okay, so it's a strange road for me to get to Last Action Hero. If I could recall the very first Arnold movie I ever saw, it was actually the very first Terminator. And I didn't actually dive into his catalog until years later. Now, growing up, it would be the Terminator 1 and 2, and then I remember we saw 3 in theaters too, and I might have saw, like, The Sixth Day or one of his maybe a little bit lesser than, movies in the late 90s, early 2000s that he did. Maybe even End of Days, which I like End of Days, quite frankly, but I remember as I got older, my mom was a big Stallone Rocky fan. So I took that with me as I got a little bit older. And when I was diving through Stallone's catalog, I basically got through watching his entire filmography because I'm such a Stallone fanatic. I love Sly. And naturally, I wanted to dive into Arnold's stuff. So as I'm going through Arnold's catalog, I read up about Last Action Hero. By this point, I went out of order. I watched Eraser. I watched you name it, Total Recall, The Running Man, which is criminally underrated still. Not enough people talk about The Running Man. And then I remember seeing this thing called Last Action Hero, and when I read about it, I say when I read about it, when I saw imagery for it or something, I thought it was a documentary for some reason. I thought Last Action Hero, oh, this is about Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know. And finally, one day I was like, well, let me get this movie. So after watching a number of his titles, I go to FYA and I found the DVD for Last Action Hero. Mind you, I had already looked into the score, or excuse me, the soundtrack, and I was like, holy crap, Megadeth, AC/DC's on here. What's going on here? And I looked up a few reviews, and it was all bad, and which was really disheartening for me. But I was never somebody that let reviews affect what I watched anyway. Still don't, quite frankly. I don't think anybody should. But I get this movie and I watched it, and I couldn't believe how good I thought this movie was. And I fell in love with it. I thought it was, till this very day, I think Last Action Hero is one of the most ambitious, one of the most hysterical, charming, and just amazing films I've ever seen. I've never seen anything quite like Last Action Hero in my life. It's truly remarkable, and I absolutely adore this movie so much, and it's leaps and to set the table. This is leaps and bounds, miles ahead of any other Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is my all-time favorite Arnold movie. The second I watched, I said, "This is my Arnold movie." I just love this movie. So this is far and away my all-time favorite
Mhm.
Arnie movie, without question. I fell in love with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's right up there with me. And going back, and we're gonna get to some of the chat in a second, guys. So I won't leave you hanging over there. But yeah, like this to me as well. Like I just think I was just the right age for this. And going back and after I had seen a lot of these movies, I think the last one I remember seeing in theaters as a kid that really just blew me away, and I just became like all about Arnold. Like if people always ask me like favorite actors, like Arnold Schwarzenegger to me was always one of the top. I was just really obsessed with him and like Michael J. Fox, and the two as a kid that would just like everything to me. And True Lies was the one I saw at in the theater, I think last, and I absolutely love that one as well. And that may have been the follow up to this one, like the next one he did that was considered a big hit, but then for some reason, I don't remember really digging into his catalog after True Lies for a long time. And I just remember then I went back and like, then it was like Terminator and like you said, Running Man and Commando and just all these other movies that he did that were just so awesome. And the one thing about Arnold, it's kind of like I think about wrestling. It's like, man, if you're a great babyface and a great heel, like you're great. For him, it's like he can do comedy just as well as he can do action. And there's not many people that can really cross over, I feel like, in that same era. And I know Stallone tried and some was good, but I just feel like it just didn't have the same charm as Arnold did in that comedic element for me. Now, again, I'll get into the chat really quick, but what do you think about that as well? Not only that, but like Arnold's library is just insane with how many great movies he had. And again, like I said, from his first to True Lies, I know really well. The other ones, like Eraser and what's that other one? The ends
End
or
of
whatever you just said. End
Days,
of Days. Like
The
those
Sixth
ones, like I've
Day.
seen,
Yeah.
but like I can't say that I've seen them as much as I've seen everything from True Lies and then before that. So, what are a couple other ones that really stand out to you in his library?
I don't want to draw a blank right now. I know that Eraser was a good one. I think that was 96. And as a matter of fact, Eraser actually used the same cabin from Friday the 13th Part 4. You'll recognize the cabin in that
Hmm.
movie. Collateral Damage wasn't too bad. I know End of Days was one that a lot of horror fans liked. Um I I I I I would say that, obviously, you have to be familiar with Jingle All the Way. It's a staple for
Oh, of
everybody.
course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. Yep.
It looks
Love
like
it.
another one he did post True Lies was, Batman and Robin. I completely forgot he
Okay,
was in that.
I did see that one in theaters as well, so I did see that one. I
And
think
it
I was,
looks
like, in high school when that came out,
Yeah.
I think.
I don't know, it looks like after that, he took a few years off and then got back into the, um Terminators, and I think not long after that he stopped, right? Because then he got into politics. So I think after Terminator 3, he took a bit of a it's been a while, and then he came back with
Mhm.
last he was in The Expendables 2 and Last
Right.
Stand. But,
Yep.
I would say his last great film, his last truly great film, I don't know, I love Jingle All the Way, but I don't
I
know
do
if you
too.
would call that great. Let's just say that Eraser to me was like the to me, Eraser is which is '96, was the end of, like, the first main Schwarzenegger run, because
Mhm.
after that, he experimented a little bit more with End of Days and stuff like that, but Eraser to me is the tail end of pure classic Arnie. That's where I would put a bookmark to where the second part of his career has the funnier stuff, the Batman and Robins and things like that.
Right. Now, again, I after True Lies and all that and Jingle All the Way, like, I get a couple of those movies still very confused, like, that we just talked about. Which is the one that's really cool? It starts out and there's, like, that weird dummy toy or whatever, like, in the car. Um, it almost had a real horror element to
I
it.
think that was End of Days. I think that
Was
was
it?
End of Days. It's been a God, it's been a
Yeah.
while.
Which is the one
Yeah.
he had, like, like, a somebody was taking over his life or whatever? Which one
But,
was that? Was that maybe that was
6
Eraser, no?
well, 6th Day
Oh,
yeah.
6th Day.
Well,
Maybe
6th
it
Day
could have
is when
been
he
that.
had, like, it was like a double, like, Van Damme did a very similar movie
Yeah.
the year
Yeah.
prior called,
Double
Replicant.
Impact.
Well, he did
Oh, that one
Replicant,
too.
which is, they were doing the same kind of movies.
Right.
Um, Eraser was like a witness protection kind of thing, weapons and all kinds it was just a good action film.
Yeah,
I
see, like,
remember
I
the
gotta dig deep into those again because like I said, like, everything early Arnold, like Running Man and all that, Commando, like, I've seen so many times. So, jumping back into, like, some of those, like that 6th Day and, like you said, like, End of Days and Collateral Damage and Eraser, like, those ones to me get very like, they all kind of feel the same to me, but probably just be it was just supposed to be my age when those were coming out and stuff, but, um,
yeah.
I don't remember, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump in really quick to the chat, and then we'll come back and see if they have questions, and we'll fire them out, and then we'll continue to talk about this underrated gem. So, Lepke Vision, what's up, man? So this is gonna be a bang of an episode. Adam Ames fan says this is gonna be awesome. Here we go, Christian. You got props for the Megadeth cover. Digging it.
Thank
Nice.
you.
DP, what is up, man? Um, how do you get to Carnegie Hall
In a
in a
body
body
bag.
bag? I love it. What's up, Joe Bob Tarheel? What's up, man? Oh, we're talking about my shirt. Got my,
Mm,
Stallone Terminator shirt here. He's wonderful, isn't he? Is that what he says? Something like that?
we'll get there. I've got it memorized.
One of the greatest scenes right there. Gus, what's up, man? Says, "Hi, Garrett and guys." Let me see what we get here. First Arnold movie that I saw in theater. Oh, we didn't even touch upon Predator yet, man. Such a great one. Um,
Oh, we will.
Kindergarten Cop. Yeah, love Kindergarten Cop, man. First Arnold movie that I saw in theaters, and I was a little kid when that came out, and I absolutely loved it. See, we got anybody coming in new. Bobby, what's up, man? Stephen King hated the Running Man movie. That's what he says here.
Aw.
Movie watch Daily Justin. What's up, man? You're a fine looking gentleman yourself. Joe Bob Tar Heel says Big Gun, True Lies is great. Yeah, man, his stuff around that time was great, and we'll kind of touch upon that too. Yeah, man. So this is a great one, and I wanted to talk to you about this as well. It's an amazing concept movie, and Arnold tries to save real life Arnold. This to me is like Scream before Scream, right? In a sense, like they were very meta in a way where they knew what they were doing. It was almost like a parody on action films, but an action film, but then an action film inside another film. To me, it was very ahead of its time in that aspect. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I mean, no disrespect, because I always seem to disrespect big franchise fans of Halloween and Scream specifically, but I think this movie is leaps and bounds way more clever than Scream is. I mean, Scream is a good meta movie. I like it. Sorry to the Scream fans, I like it, but Jesus Christ. But A Last Action Hero is like, again, going back, dude, this movie is so amazing in its concept and going into the kid getting sucked into the movie. Arnold, he has to see himself. That's the real crazy stuff was the latter half of the film when Jack Slater gets to see his his non-cinematic version of himself is remarkable. Like the movie is It's remarkable. I think that this movie is there's nothing like it. I've never seen anything like Last Action Hero. It's
Mhm.
brilliant. It's
It
so
really
brilliant.
is. It almost takes even, like, the effect of, like, how good, when Back to the Future, right? Like, when they did some of those things in part 2, I'm a huge fan of Back to the Future 2, and it's like, when they start crossing paths and then you're seeing them from the other movies, and it's really cool, man, and I feel like that is well in this, and for a movie that, it didn't do well, like, I mean, they pulled all the punches here. Like, when they do, like, the movie theater scene at the end and they have, like, the Jack Slater premiere and you see the real Arnold, I mean, the stuff they have outside, like the big Jack Slater blow up doll, like, I mean, man, they just had it was just a great looking movie. It just looked fun as hell. And I feel like they just went all out in this aesthetically and everything like that. Like, I just feel like it was just done so right. And I think I read what was like 85 million, I think this cost to make. And
It was very costly. Yeah,
and
yeah.
it made, I think, like 137 million, I think,
Yeah,
in the box office.
it did to kind of go back to what you were saying earlier. So again, I've studied this movie, and you were pretty much right on the head with it. Arnie, and he talks about it. This was a big passion project. And what's so cool is on the back of my laser disc, it's all about Arnold's drive to make this movie. He had wanted to make this movie for a few years. Arnie begged and begged and begged the producers, let's push this back a few weeks. We need to push it because Arnie, the only way to understand that business is to pretty much be in it and do it. And when you're at that top level, you know when's the right time to drop your movies. Arnie begged the producers, give it a few weeks, let the Jurassic Park crowd die down because Steven Spielberg at that point literally was untouchable. If he had a movie
Mhm.
coming out, that's what people went to go see. I mean, that was just the bottom line. So the producers were like, every week we're not in the theater in that summer is millions of dollars we're losing. And they couldn't see the bigger pic. Arnie was trying to explain to him this bigger picture, and he didn't see it. Granted, Arnie did talk about the VHS sales and the rental sales were astronomical for Last
Mhm.
Action Hero. So it became a big cult hit, obviously, after the fact. But box office wise, unfortunately, it did not get the returns that it underperformed, needless to say. And the reviews weren't that great for it, which still boggle my
Right.
mind. I think Ebert said it has some good moments, but overall it was he just felt it was flat, which I don't know, man. I'll always respect those guys. I love Siskel and Ebert,
Right.
but I don't know. I would have expected Gene to love this movie, and he
Did
didn't.
you think that just coming off of Terminator 2 was kind of what hurt as well because they were just so used to that style of him, and to change it completely right into this one, if that hurt? But Um, do you know if Arnold was proud of it afterwards, or was he kind of like, "Ah, shit, I shouldn't have did it," because I was looking up stuff online too, and there was, like, even a Simpsons episode that made a crack
Yeah.
at this movie or something where they approached Arnold in Simpson, they said, "Oh, your career is, flopping because of that movie with the magic ticket," or whatever, and I was like, "Wow, like, people were really giving this thing shit," and what's so funny is, like I said, like, dude, there was, like, an action figure line for this, so there was high hopes for this movie big time because, I mean, not just any movie gets, like, an action figure line, and, it just got some great characters in here as well, which we'll kinda talk about.
Yeah, from what I remember reading too, I think Arnie he says this a lot. He loves scripts. Oh, it's a beautiful script. I love the script. The script was great for the film. I think he thought it was going to have a little bit more of that twinkle, that emotional twinkle that he read when he was reading the movie, and he thought it was going to be obviously still humorous, but have that "I know now why you cry" kind of moment in the
Mhm.
film, and it just didn't play out that way. It played out very much more comedic and slapstick, certainly not the word, but just it played out. It played out. I think the film turned out literally the way it needed to. The best films ever never are massive a lot of them, not
True.
always, but a lot of the
Mhm.
greatest films ever are never successors right away. Successes. They have to build and find an audience. So, but then Garrett, that could be one of those things too. It depends on when you got when he was giving this information to
Right.
whatever interview, or it could have just been not sour grapes, but maybe the film would have been maybe the film would have got better reviews had we had a little bit more of an emotional angle behind it and dove into a few things because there's some stuff in the film that you wonder that they don't talk about, which I don't know if they cut stuff from this movie, but for instance, the boy. we hear the mom have a moment with him. He's like, I didn't choose this. I didn't choose to be a widow before 40. I didn't choose any of this. They didn't really talk much about the dad and the boy's connection with his father. And is Jack Slater like a father to what's the boy's name? Danny, right? Danny was the
Danny,
boy's
yep.
name. And then
Mhm.
was Jack Slater become like this almost spiritual father because his dad hadn't been around, so he felt this connection with Slater. I think maybe some of that stuff could have been in an initial script that maybe got cut out. It's potentially, I don't
Mhm.
know because I've never listened to a commentary for this film or seen a documentary that dove into what might have been caught. But I've always speculated there may have been a little bit something there, and I just put a little bit of that subtext in because of that. Because I think it's. I mean, if I'm thinking this, most people are much more intelligent with me with movies, so I think Danny saw Jack as like this almost spiritual father figure to him, which might have got cut out of the final product a little bit.
Oh, I definitely agree that that's exactly what he felt. And but what's so funny too is that, and I don't know if anybody takes this into consideration, but in 1993, the worst place you wanted to be was competing with Jurassic Park. There was not even that movie was so it was something no one's ever seen before. Nothing would have succeeded in head to head with Jurassic Park. Nothing would have.
Nothing.
And when you think in '93, even just like off the top of my head, like not many other movies like really stick out. Like, oh, that was '93. I mean, maybe but I mean, in my head, I don't. There's nothing that sticks out and be like, oh yeah, that was a big hit in '93. To me, it was like that time of my life. Like Jurassic Park was like everything at that point. So, do you?
Um, well, I'm looking right now because you have me so curious.
Mm,
This are some of the films that came out in 1993. Son-in-Law, which I love.
hmm
The Good
right.
Son.
Yep. Good movie.
Leprechaun.
Okay.
The Ninja Turtles 3.
Shit. Damn it.
Jason Goes to Hell.
Okay.
Demolition Man. Oh, Demolition Man says 93, but I thought that was 1994. Google could very well be wrong on
Mhm.
that because I think Cliffhanger was 93. Which I know Cliffhanger was 93. Matinee, which is one of my all-time favorite Joe Dante movies that nobody
No.
saw back in the day. But that again, another film that has a massive cult hit. But to go along with what you're saying, 1993 was dominated by Jurassic Park. I mean, Jurassic
Mhm.
Park. I don't know how many millions it made, but I wouldn't be surprised if it almost hit $1 billion in 1993. I would not be even remotely surprised.
No, I agree, and I don't. I
It
mean,
did.
again,
It crossed $1 billion in
now,
1993. So you got to
right?
think about what that is 2022 money. You know.
Exactly. And when there's probably even points where there's movies that will probably like Demolition Man, let's say, like maybe they saw what happened to Last Action Hero and said, "Hey, let's push it to '94," right? Because probably nobody wanted to be in that spot and just be overshadowed by Jurassic Park. But yeah, guys. So again, I like to do with this show is if you're a big fan of this movie, like, hey, go check it out again. If you're never seen it, we just try to kind of win you guys over with it. And being horror fans as well, um, there's some cool elements in this movie that I would like to bring up. Like, man, the Ripper is a scary dude. And when this movie's like PG-13, like as a kid, he scared the shit out of me, man. And
Oh man,
even
yeah.
watching it now, I'm like, I would love to see a full like
It's
a whole
slasher film.
movie. Yeah, like
Yeah.
with just him as the slasher. Like I think it could work. Like if they did like some kind of prequel with just him or the spinoff. Like Tom Noonan, man, is great. Like you look at
The
his
best.
body of work and you're like, man, this guy is so underrated with these characters, and he's just a great character actor. Like you're even talking about like even things now when he's older, like House of the Devil, how great he was in that, and then obviously Monster Squad and Manhunter and all that. But such a good guy, and I brought this out, and I got this thing signed. Look at
Oh my god.
this.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, Tom Noonan signed this Ripper picture for me a couple of years ago. I don't remember how many years ago it was, but just to show that that was such a great iconic character for me. And what an awesome actor that guy is. And even when it comes into the real world, it's scary as hell in this movie.
Oh, dude, I tell people how great Tom Noonan is all the time, and you know, getting like when I tell people that I'm into action films, especially action films that I think horror fans would be into, I always, always tell them, guys, Tom Noonan as the villain in RoboCop 2 is more
Mhm.
menacing than probably any slasher character from the 80s. I mean, he legitimately grabs a kid's head and forces him to watch this guy get gutted open, and it's one of the most intense. Remember the cop when
Yep.
they like he was like, you said you were just gonna scare him. Doesn't he look scared? I mean, he. I tell people like movies like that, and the Ripper again, and it's so creepy because like in the opening scene of Last Action Hero, the Ripper has this big, Mandy style, axe, futuristic, crazy looking axe thing. He doesn't have a gun. He has
Mhm.
a freaking monstrous axe. Like he's a slasher. The Ripper is the Ripper. That's his name. And you know, I always wonder what the hell was he going to do with those kids up there. It always
I was wondering, number one, how
I
did he get them up there? All those kids, how did he get them all up there? And what was his plan up there? That
oh dude,
it was crazy. And like even just his outfit too, like the yellow raincoat with the hood on.
the
Like that's just
raincoat
yeah, it's such
is
just overall just a great look, man, for him.
yeah.
And
Yeah, he's great.
another part that kind of freaked me out as a kid in this was when Danny's home alone and he's trying to leave his apartment and he opens the door real quick and sees like, a guy walk by and then he gets scared and he's like, I'm gonna try it again. And that guy comes in and like breaks into his house. As a kid around that age when I saw this, like that scared the crap out of me that like someone just break into your house and like basically like rob you and like you're just a little kid. And that was always kind of a freaky moment too. And they just did a real good job. And just like all those movies back then when they bring New York City into it, like how grimy and stuff that it always feels. And I that was another scene too that always kind of hit me hard as a kid was that like scene of him trying to get out of the apartment and like it just being all dark and stuff in the hallway and all that
Uh,
stuff.
oh, dude, the anxiety of it and, and he gets tied to the toilet.
Yeah, yeah. Like it
And
wasn't,
then
and that's the thing. It wasn't funny, right? Like as a kid, like it wasn't like you're looking at this and you're like, I don't see a lot of these in the most of the movies I watch. This kind of stuff.
oh, dude, yeah, it's the real deal, and, it's like when Danny has his little moment of, like, wanting to fight back against them, it's like you wanna think you could be as tough as him in that moment, but, dude, somebody breaks into my apartment at when I'm that age by myself, dude, I literally am just getting in the fetal position and saying, "Just do what you take what you need to take,"
Yep,
you know? Oh,
yep, agree.
and then did he throw the key into the toilet when he's like, "You what's up with me? You got no jewelry, you got a crap TV, a VCR that'll get me 20 bucks. Go fish." And he throws the key in the toilet.
You really can recite this thing, can't you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to this to the chat because I feel bad I haven't jumped on
Go
this
ahead.
right here.
Go ahead.
Let's see. We got Justin says
Yes, Adam's 80 fan. I've got it. I'll show it later. Sorry.
This is one of the best movies ever made. Action movies. Agree. It's up there, man. It's so different. Some guys, you want to be a farmer. Here's a couple like great line, man. I mean, people might say like, oh, it's so cheesy, dude. Like it was just so perfect because to me, that opening scene I love because it reminds me so much like they're spoofing Commando. I mean, Cobra to me. Like that whole first scene where they're like, don't go in there, and everybody's trying to stop them, and everybody's coming, and they're like, you'll lose your badge, and he like kind of throws it back to him. But it always kind of reminded me of the intro to Cobra when Stallone kind of walks into the supermarket or whatever, and everybody's telling him not to go.
Mm,
And so I always thought that was really cool. And what a great line that was, as well. And just punting him like across the
the delivery. That's
thing.
why Arnie was funny. He got it. He got it. He used his awkward, gap in his teeth smile to his advantage. Like he knew it. He just figured it out and he knew how to be fucking hilarious.
Riverman says, "Killer Show, dude. Thank you."
Thank you. Thank you, dude. It's it's lime green.
The 6th Day, an Arnold movie no one talks about it, but it's good. Again, like I said, that one blends in with a lot of other ones, so it's one I really need to go back and watch again. Um, Let me see what we got here. Escape Plan is great. Riverman says they're talking about Mr. Freeze in here. Lepke says as a latchkey kid in the 90s, stolen source. Yeah, man, for real. Me too. Um, they were all over the place for me as a kid growing up. Rock Music Forever 90. What's up? His last great film is You Have Just Been Erased. Again,
It
falls in the
was
same
great.
thing for me. Like Eraser, I wish I knew if that's the one I'm thinking of or it's a different one. But yeah, I definitely have them on DVD, but it's going to be something I'm going to go back and check out. Nor and Rad. I haven't seen you in a chat before. What is up, man? Uh, Seven says hell of a movie. Norin gives his thing. Number one, T2, number two, Running Man, three, Predator, Last Action, Total Recall. Man, if we had to rank,
I gotta work on that list, Norin. I gotta work on that list. I don't like it.
I'm gonna say for me, I love T2, but it wouldn't be up there for me. I don't know why. Like I absolutely love Terminator 2 and growing up, but for some reason when I think of all those other movies, like I would put Total Recall like way up there for me. It's just one of those ones that I've always loved, and it was so ahead of its time when I saw it growing up. Him walking through that thing and turning into the skeleton when he was going through like the sensors.
It's
That was
brilliant.
mind blowing to me as a kid. Like in that time, like you never saw anything like that, and I think that was even in the trailers and stuff. And those effects in Total Recall are just out of this world to me. Still, as
Yeah.
cheesy as they may look, it's just so inventive. I feel like I would put Total Recall way up there on mine, but it's a hard list to make, man, because he had so many good ones.
Yeah. I'm working on a list right now. I was gonna do a video about this. I've said this a million times already. I'm not gonna give my top 5, but without a freaking doubt, Last fucking Action Hero is number 1 for me.
Wow.
It's not even close. Have I
You
made
gotta get
myself clear?
you gotta get for your thing, you gotta get the figures ready for those. Dude, I actually looked them up before we went on,
I
and
want
I was
them.
like
I want a
"Oh, I wanna
Slater.
get these." Dude, they're cheap, man. You can get them all real cheap. People are selling them by, like, the cases
I want
for,
them in. Oh,
like
I gotta have them in the case. I bought a poster. I bought a theatrical poster, and I got the one with Arnie holding the ticket
oh,
because
that's
I'm
a
gonna
good one,
pick
man.
in my game room. I'm gonna double them up. I'm doubling them
That's
up.
sick.
I'm gonna get the
Uh
figures too.
Yeah, I don't remember the one. This is my I have the 4K steel. This is the one that I think I remember as a kid. But the
Yeah,
ticket one I do too. So I don't know if those were two that they had, or maybe the ticket one was somewhere like I for some reason I feel like there was Burger King toys when I was growing up.
yeah.
I don't remember
I
why.
think it could be a teaser for Last Action or a UK or something. I don't think it was UK. I think it was American. I'd have to figure that out for sure, but they're such great the steel book that you have, which is the theatrical poster, is one of the
Mhm.
most beautiful posters ever. Again, it made me think it was a documentary for some bizarre reason before I saw the movie, but I love it so much, and I was so bummed out that I didn't pre-order it. This was before I realized Best Buy is trash, and they never have. Well, I say it's probably not their fault. I mean, we saw this with Halloween. I pre-ordered Halloween Kills steelbook, and thank God I did. Nobody saw those in stores because the pre-orders
Mhm.
were so high that there was no stock. So you
Yeah.
got to pre-order if you want the steel books, guys, for whatever movie it is. Pre-order it. Don't wait because it's not going to be at Best Buy. I promise you.
Well, what's funny is I agree with you. So I pre-ordered Scream really early, and then all of a sudden it was like gone, like the steelbook for the new Scream. And I was like, oh shit, thank God I pre-ordered that because it never went back on sale on the site. But then I saw a couple, like quite a few people found it in stores. And I was like, wow, like these things never get to the stores. And if they do, it's usually like two and they're gone within like seconds of the store opening. So I saw a couple people post that a lot of them had found the steelbook in the store. So I don't know if it was just random or if they're trying to get better with how many they're putting out, knowing that this is happening. Because, like I said, the pre order on the site was like it was in and out quick. So it's just very, very interesting. And I actually got my pre order in yesterday and I opened up the box and I just kind of shook my head to myself because I had two in there. And I thought to myself, shit, I probably did order two, didn't I? Because in my head, thinking these things were going to be like hot commodities, I'm like, oh, I need to make sure I have
Well,
two.
you'll get your
So,
money back if you sell one of them.
but yeah, it was one of those things I like totally forgot that I like bought another one or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I hear that they're a little more plentiful than the other ones are. But like you said, with Best Buy, you got to be quick because who would have thought Last Action Hero would have been something that would have sold up so fast? I wouldn't have.
Well, I'm glad though, man, because that validates the film to me. I'm not weird
Mm.
for at being obsessed with this movie. It deserves the fan base. It is good, you know. That's my way of validating the film. So I'm happy that it did sell out. But I'm not as cool, but I'm so glad, and I'll show it later. I'm so glad that the 4K replicates the art from the Laserdisc, which was awesome. So the Laserdisc art is very similar to the 4K art. So I'm very happy about that.
Now, was that the DVD art as well? I forget.
No, the DVD art is the poster with him holding
It
Danny.
was?
It is. I
I
didn't
remember.
grab it, but I vividly know that the DVD I have is the theatrical
Hmm.
poster.
I had the DVD, but I don't remember what the cover was. I think I might have gotten rid of it now. But it's funny. I know who this is. This is Chris. Chris, what's up, man? Yeah, good call on that. 93 Mrs. Doubtfire. That was a big one for me growing up as a kid.
It
So that was
was.
another big hit
It certainly was.
for sure. Bobby says The Crush. Great movie, but I don't think it did much numbers wise. But it shows you how far back on the chat I am right now. I'm just going to kind of scroll down, catch up here. Oh, who's this? Is this Homie? Homie, do you know this person,
I
Christian?
yeah, that looks familiar. Some of my people may pop in here because I shared the stream
Mhm.
on my page saying, "Hey, come, we're talking
Yes, we
something
got
else."
a friggin' awesome movie. Love seeing it on TV growing up. It was was this on TV quite a bit growing up? I don't remember.
I would
Uh,
have to assume, yeah. I mean, it's ripe for TV. There's not too much stuff that would have to be edited out, so I would assume it was probably on TV a lot.
so Christian, you're gonna like this too. Ken, what's up, man? What I like that Ken does, if you guys don't follow Mid Level Media, is he kind of puts out little contests each month, and it kind of helps creators too, like get something going that maybe that wasn't on their plan for the month. And last month he did favorite top 10 movies of 1984, and I know you did something, I did something for it, Christian. So this month he's doing a Stallone month, and I know you'll be into that one. I think it's going to be like I don't know, maybe a ranking. I don't know. Tell me in the chat, Ken. Is it a Stallone ranking this month? But I know he's doing Stallone month, which
Yeah,
I'm definitely down for because there's a lot of Stallone ones that I would love to go back and check out again. And Demolition Man being one, love that movie. And it's been probably a good number of years since I've seen it, so I wouldn't mind going back and checking that out again.
oh, it's
Um,
great. It's great.
like even like Cliffhanger as a kid, like I was really into that, but it's been a long time. It's not one that I frequent quite a bit. So, with me, the Arnold ones that I really know are, we're talking like the Rambos and the Rockies. Um, I might be missing some good ones here, but like he's got a great catalog, and Lockup's another good one that not many people talk about.
Oh, it's great.
Um,
Donald Sutherland's in that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, guys. So if you want to check him out, they're gonna be doing a Stallone month. So you're a big Stallone fan. It'll be kind of fun to do like a hashtag. I don't know what it is, Stallone month. Check out his thing. He'll tell you, and see all these people's videos on their Stallone stuff. So I might participate in that one as well. I gotta find all my stuff.
Now, Garrett,
Um,
really quick, I gotta say, I know which Stallone film is for you. I know because you're a man of taste and you like to have a good time.
tell me.
I'm sure you've seen it, but it's probably been a long time since you've seen it. Stallone is absolutely amazing in 1995's Judge Dredd. It
Judge
is
Dredd.
the real deal.
Yeah, that was such a big one for me as well. Like that was so hyped. It's just as hyped as this was in 95 because again, you and I are a little bit different in age. So it just came out at the right time for me. And it was just so hyped at that time. I think like the first Stallone movie that I remember seeing in theaters was Cliffhanger, I believe. So that was probably around this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Judge Dredd I saw as well. But that one has been a while where like if I'm thinking of Judge Dredd and Demolition Man, like I'm probably gonna get some streams crossed here. So it would definitely be two I want to go back and watch again. With Demolition Man, the two things I remember a lot is obviously Snipes and the Taco Bell, the futuristic Taco Bell was so killer.
I need that
In
Taco
that.
Bell shirt. They make a
They're
shirt with the futuristic Taco Bell logo.
Yeah,
I
they've
need it.
got it. I've seen it out there for sure. That's a good one. Um, let me see. David's. We got Jamie Hart saying hello. Hi, Jamie. She loves Arnie. Yes, us too. Um, Dave Stevenson says, love that Stallone was in everything he was in. Hilarious. Was in everything he was in. Um, so the rib, I guess, with this whole Terminator thing was kind of like a little rib that they had against each other because they were in very similar style movies back then, and they were the top dogs. And to me, like Christian said earlier, is I'm a huge action guy, but it's like this 80s and 90s are like my jams when it comes to action movies. Like you're talking about the Van Dams and Schwarzenegger and Stallone and stuff like that's the kind of stuff I love. And even all those like very low budget martial art movies, like No Retreat, No Surrender, stuff like that. Like love all that stuff.
Right.
Um, I'm not a big action fan now. Like you said, like I don't watch a lot of it. Like I actually loved Fast Furious 1 and 2. love them. I haven't really watched any after that. Like I've seen them, but not enough to like remember which part is what. But I still love the first and second one a lot. A lot of those rock movies, I haven't seen any of those action ones, and um, I just don't watch a lot of current stuff. So to me, action movies are always like this, where they just were balls out, and they didn't have to worry about things, and the effects weren't just all CGI. And I don't know, always a big fan of that stuff. So I'm glad to be talking about this with you tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the same as it's a lot. It's basically like horror films from back in the day.
Hmm.
Like, dude, they had to blow those fucking cars up. They didn't have any other choice. They had to blow them up.
Right.
They had to make guys fall off of these buildings. When Arnie kicks that dude in the balls after he says, "Here's a couple of acres," like there's strings attached to the guy, and they yanked him in the air. They did it. They couldn't CGI it yet, so it's like you get the same charm and appreciation from the action gags and stunts that you do when somebody's neck gets blown off or cut off. Like it's like they're both very visceral genres, and they were at their
Hmm.
best during this time. I think the 90s, people say horror was dead in the 90s. Maybe so. You know why? Because action was owning the
Hmm.
90s without
Hmm.
question. 90s was the decade for action. I mean, that's just, it
Definitely.
is what it is. You know?
This is interesting, and I did not know this. I don't know if you did, but Lepke says Face Off was supposed to be Stallone and Schwarzenegger, but they turned it down. It went to Triple Cage. Imagine that.
Yeah, they they
Imagine that.
they they couldn't help themselves. I think they talk about how they were just so super competitive and they hated each other, but I know that what Stallone means by that is like, dude, they had to outdo each other, and I guess they just, they couldn't come to an agreement to do it, which I wouldn't change history. I kind of like Face Off with Nicolas Cage in it, but
Mhm.
you know. I then again, I say that, I mean, Escape Plan, by the time that they finally did do a true movie together, it was just kind of like, you guys should have done this way sooner. I mean, could you imagine Commando and Rambo together in a movie back in 1989 or something? Oh, that would have been fucking crazy. Are you kidding me? In
It
their
would have been out
primes,
of control.
like
I mean, it
literally
was it was even exciting when Expendables came out to me. When that came out, I was like really excited for it, and but at the same time, like to me, it was
bittersweet.
just yeah, like
Yeah.
it was one of those things that was cool, but I was kind of like, man, like I wish this was years and years and years ago. Um, hold on, let me see what we got here. Sorry, everybody's chiming in. Jeff Overing, what is up? Let me see. Okay, this is interesting. Cinesteph says Arnie or Sly. Me, I'm gonna say Arnie.
I hate that question.
It's a tough one, man.
I have to go Sylvester because of all of these catalogs of movies that these guys have, I think about what is my all-time favorite movie at the end of the day between these two guys, and the answer to that is First Blood, without question. I think that's one of the greatest films ever made, is First Blood. So I have to go Sly. I always felt like I am a Sly guy, no pun intended. Like, I just always was like, I'm a Sly guy. Like, his movies, nobody can do that serious action, just dead serious, like Sly can. But like it's like this. Like if you're
Mhm.
looking at him, you can't even tell the difference. But I've got to go Sly just by a nose hair, because to me, First Blood is one of the greatest movies ever. So
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you recently do a Stallone like Laserdisc collection? Did you like
oh
within the
yeah,
last month?
I have everything except a few films. Like, I don't know if Lords of Flatbush ever got a laser disc, or Victory. I think Victory might have got a laser disc. So I didn't own Death Race 2000, Victory, and Fist. I didn't own Fist, which is a great movie, him portraying Jimmy Hoffa. But sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. Yes, I did. I have a lot of
Okay,
his movies on
because there
laserdisc.
was I believe that, and I was funny because I was watching it and I was thinking in my head like, wow, there's a lot of Stallone movies I've never seen. Like some you were talking about, I've honestly never seen. And I have quite a big Stallone collection, and as well as Arnold, but man, there was a lot I didn't even realize were he had done. And I can't put my finger on what it was, but it was probably earlier ones. Um, I'm trying to think
Par-
of what you were talking about
m-
when
Maybe the Paradise Alleys, maybe the Stop Where My Mama Shoots. Actually, I think Stop Where My Mama Shoots kind of found its audience now, which I love that
yeah.
movie. As bad as it
That one
is.
I've seen, but the other one that you said, Paradise Alley, no, I have not.
And Fist is, oh my god, Fist is so good. Anything I'm obsessed with the Jimmy Hoffa story. The guy who ran the Federation Interstate Truckers. He was the union guy back in the day, and he disappeared. Nobody ever knew what happened to him. Well, this was like an autobiopic on Jimmy Hoffa, and Stallone plays him, and it's a brilliant film. It's so good, and he did a great job. And that was 1977, I think. I think he did that after Rocky, as a matter of fact. But
Hmm.
that's a great movie. You ought to check that out. And Oscar is a man. Oscar is so awesome, but it's the
Oh
most
no,
ridiculous thing ever.
I've never seen that one either. That's the one. That was one of them I've never seen.
Yeah, yeah. You'll never see anything like it. I promise you. And I'm not
All
saying
right,
it's good, but
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna have to go back to your vid and find the ones I don't have, especially if I want to participate in this month with mid level. Um, Sean Brown, very underrated soundtrack. Yes, this
oh
soundtrack
god,
is incredible, and I think this soundtrack was actually a real big hit when it came out. I
without
think that
question. Yeah,
it even did better than like the movie did at the time. Once before it hit like physical media or whatever. But yeah, the soundtrack was great. Like the AC/DC song for me was as a kid was like number one. Megadeth was great. I'm a huge Queensryche fan, and I know they did something on this as well. So
they did.
I know Alice in Chains, and I think was it Tesla that did a song? I'm trying to think.
Tesla is on there. Def Leppard is on
Oh,
there.
okay, yeah,
The who's who of music at the time, which was that very interesting because 93 is a such a transitional year
I
because
was just gonna say that. Yeah.
you've got your hair stuff coming, hair stuff leaving, which I really don't like the term, but hair bands
Mhm.
kind of hanging on because I was a baby. You probably would know a little bit better than me, Garrett, but I have done so much research on music at this time. People say grunge killed hair metal. That's true, and I think I can only speculate, but that's also not true. In 1992, after Nevermind had come out, Def Leppard was still selling 3 million records when they released Adrenalize. So, I mean, did it just kill it right away? I don't think so. I think MTV stopped playing their stuff on television. You weren't seeing no more Skid Row music videos, but
Right.
I think that there were bands that were still hanging on and touring and making money, but the years kept getting worse and worse for them. So, but AC/DC Big Guns was for the longest time, I think that was the only way you could physically hear that song was that soundtrack. I think they've since released in the maybe last 5 or 6 years a big collection box set AC/DC has where
Mhm.
you can then get Big Guns. And the Family Jewels DVD set, which was nothing but music videos, I believe it could have been on there as well. Which if you haven't seen the music video for Big Guns, you'll love seeing Arnie dressed up as little Malcolm. I mean not Malcolm Angus Young and
Yeah.
has him on his it's hysterical. Hysterical, you know.
Yeah, you know, I kinda lived it that era, during that time, like but again, I was relatively young, so, when it came to hair metal and stuff like that, I was a real big fan of it. My uncle's the one who got me into that stuff, but, you know, I was at that age where it was like in one end of the spectrum, I'm listening to Poison and Def Leppard and Skid Row, and then I'm going to school and everybody's talking about New Kids on the Block, so it's like I'm all in that as well. So, it's kinda funny because I fall in, like, a weird category where I love all that stuff now. Like I love New Kids on the Block. I love still the hair metal, but as a kid, it was like I had one end of my life was like all this, and then the other end was all here. So if you ever look at my like cassette tape collection, it's all over the place around that time.
I'd love
You
to
know, I
see
was
it.
I was getting like, you know, for Christmas I was getting Bobby Brown and you know, Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer was a big time thing. And then at the same time I had like ACDC on the other end. So it was a weird transition period. And I think at the time, like I was fading out of the hair bands a little bit. And because Nirvana, Candlebox, like all that stuff was like what Guns N' Roses still was really big. And at
Right.
that point in time, and AC/DC really got back on my radar at that time because of this movie. And I never had this soundtrack, but I did have Big Guns on CD, but it was a single that I found. It was just at like Suncoast or something. You could only it was just a single. It was just that song. It had like its own cover. It said Big Guns and this huge logo, and I can remember buying it right away. And just because that was the only way I could get it without having this CD.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, I tell you, one of my favorite songs in the track, and in context of the movie, it works so well. I don't remember the name of the actual Alice in Chains song. It's the first of the two on the CD. It's the one that you hear with the weird kind of sidewinder guitar riff that when Jack Slater is at the crime scene in the beginning. Bow,
Mhm.
bow, bow, bow. That weird guitar. I love that song
So good.
because of all those grunge bands, which I don't know. People tell me that Alice in Chains isn't grunge or this isn't grunge. Grunge is just a time period. It's not the bands. I don't want to quibble over definition,
Right.
but over all those bands that really broke out during that time, Alice in Chains is by far, I think, the best of those bands to come out of that early 90s and explosion. I think that they were amazing. I mean, I love that EP Alice in Chains put out in 90, and then, oh god, are you kidding me?
Dirt,
Dirt is
yeah.
a literal masterpiece, but
Yep.
they were such good musicians, and they still are, the
Mhm.
band, even though they don't have the original singer and all that. But that song, I mean, that song and that record, it works so good in the context. And one thing, I don't wanna get too off topic, but I gotta say, this movie, along with another movie, are the only 2 movies I know that actually show a form of technology in film that I've never seen anywhere. I've never seen this in person before, and I never saw it in any other movies besides this movie and Time Cop, and that is the use of a mini disc player. When
Hmm.
Arnie is driving his red cherry, convertible in the chase scene, where he switches the song from
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Big Guns.
Yeah.
I've never seen a mini disc player. I've asked my uncle about this technology, and he said it was gone before he even really got to see anything. It did not catch on. I think it was very expensive. It's collector's items now. If you try to get this stuff, I have tried to buy just a couple discs. I have it somewhere in the bowels of my closet. Alice Cooper's Classics from 1995. His I think it's kind of his Sony kind of greatest hits. It's got stuff from Trash on it and those records. It's a mini disc and it comes like in a case and you pop the thing in the player. I own that on mini disc,
That's
but I don't have a
awesome.
player. But I've only that movie and Time Cop have been the only 2 movies I've
Hmm.
ever seen that have mini discs. So this had to have been a this had to have been a 90s thing and then it just didn't catch on. So I don't
Yeah,
know. Do
I
you
didn't
have
really know much about it at all. I didn't own anything like that. I'd never really seen it. Um, but again, I told you, I think I don't know if I was telling you in our stream or the Dead Pit guys in ours. I forget, but you being so big into laser discs for me, and the thing is I kind of was like, I grew up around that time. Like they never existed to me in the sense that I never owned any. I didn't know anybody that owned any. I guess my uncle owned them, but I didn't really remember him showing me them. And when I was listening to you talk about how long they were actually around for, it just blows me away because I didn't really see them until I was like probably out of high school. I went to a friend's house and his dad had like this huge collection. I'm like, oh wow, these I've heard of these, but I've never seen them. And it was just mind blowing to me that you have so many. So I don't know if it was one of those things where when it kind of died out, you started collecting at good prices where I think now they're a lot more valuable or to try to get your hands on a lot of them than maybe they were when you started collecting them. But growing up through that time, like it didn't exist to
didn't see
me. And
him?
I don't know why. No, never. Like, and I was in CD stores and cassette tape stores, like all the time, movie stores all the time. And like, I never recall seeing them anywhere.
It's interesting, I don't recall seeing them too much either. I have a few buddies that are big into the hobby and were, quite frankly, around a lot more than I was when the technology was at the ready. A lot of it was sell-through, from what I understand, and a lot of it was, people would order directly from manufacturers and stuff, but then again, like, I have some friends that are actually in the New York area, and they tell me, like, all I did was see those in CEDs back in the '80s, like,
Hmm.
they were everywhere, so I don't know, it's one of those things, man. I just don't
It,
know, but, it was around from about '76 to 2001 in Japan. It died out in I think one of the very last movies to come out was this Mel Gibson action film in '99,
hmm.
but, in Japan, it lasted to 2001, and I know that you can actually get Scream 3, which I have it. It cost me a lot of money. Scream 3 on Japan Laserdisc was one of the last titles, horror titles to come out on the format, so I've got Star Wars Episode 1 on Laserdisc from Japan, don't ask
Yeah,
me why, but I have
it's
it,
just
but
crazy to me. Like, were these all mostly like eBay purchases for you?
oh,
You
yeah,
kind of brought this collection up.
I started collecting in 2009-ish or 10, so this was way before it was cool to just this was before people would just say, "Oh my god, I need this now. Let me pay $50 for this." So now everybody will think it's worth that and
Mhm.
ruin the hobby.
Right.
But yeah, I started around 2009. The first Laserdisc I ever bought was Leprechaun 2.
That's so
I
funny.
got it for like
That is so funny.
I got it for like $6. But if you don't mind, I got to show
Sure.
this.
Yeah,
Without
I was just gonna
question,
ask if you had this. So, yeah,
without
perfect.
question, I had to have Last Action Hero, and this thing is beautiful. On the back, this is where Arnie. There's an interview. I don't want to read this whole
Mm,
stuff to you, but like, there's
mhm.
literally an Arnold Schwarzenegger interview about the movie. I mean, how cool! There's an
That is cool.
interview on the back of the Laserdisc with Arnie, and he talks about why he wanted to do this movie. How after this big success of Terminator 2, the studios were able to like let him kind of pick and choose what he wanted to do, and he'd been passionate about this movie for a long time. And it's a gatefold, so kind of like Waxwork does now. Everything's a gatefold, whether it's one disc or two
Mhm,
disc. On the
mhm.
inside, it's just all kinds of cool pictures, and you know, it's
So
beautiful.
good.
It's beautiful. I just love this movie. So as soon as I watched the movie around 2010 ish, and I got into Laserdisc, I told myself, well, I have to own Last Action
Mhm.
Hero. I mean, I just can't. I love the Laserdisc of this. I wore this thing out numerous times after I got it on Laserdisc. So it's been a while since I've done it, and I'm getting a new Laserdisc player because mine actually broke. My friend Lauren actually found one for me that he got me, but I can't wait to spin Last Action Hero on laser again.
So
So
let me
and
ask you this: now that you're kind of doing more videos talking about your Laserdisc collection stuff, and you're seeing that, like, for instance, Mid Level Media is going to do a Stallone month and all this stuff. Like, is it getting you itchy now to like complete collections on certain things and like still buy more of them now, or have you been done with them and you're just showing what you had, or are you kind of getting itchy now to like continue on and still build it?
well, it's interesting because I told myself about 3 or 4 years ago I'm semi-retired. I've got basically, I mean, Garrett, I'll tell you, I could buy my wife a new car if I sold my Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street
Right,
Laserdisc collections. I mean, the Friday the 13th, anything Friday the 13th that's old is collectible. That's the
right.
most. I tell people all the time, from my experience, Friday the 13th is the most collectible franchise in the world. That stuff is just worth a shit ton of money. Like this Friday Part 5 lamp that was in video
I
stores.
know, dude. It's one of those items that I've always wanted, and it's just been so. There was an opportunity for me to get it once, and I think it was back in like '08,
And
and
you
I
didn't jump on
lost
it.
it. Like I was kind of I was like, oh, $50 right now. I don't know. And it's like now I would give anything to go back and spend
Stupid,
$50 on
stupid.
that thing. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think Piz has it actually as one of his holy grails, and it's always one of those things that it's like
he
I would
does.
love to
Yeah.
get my hands on that. And there's another one too. I was talking to somebody about today that's selling a lot of their collection is I've always wanted the the Devil's Rejects, that metal NECA mask in like the shadow box. Do you remember
Oh,
that came
I know
out?
exactly what
It
you're
was
talking about.
always one of those pieces that I like would love to have, but now that it's going for such crazy money, and I'm just like I can't justify spending this much on that. Like, I mean, I like it, but it's not my favorite movie. But it was always one of those pieces too that I just kind of wish I had jumped on when I had the opportunity to.
Yeah. But to answer your question really quick,
Sure.
I did a video not long after that where I showed my Jean-Claude Van Damme Laserdisc and my Arnie's. And when I did the video, I said, "Guys, I am shocked I only have 3 Arnold Schwarzenegger
That's
Laserdiscs."
right. I did see that one.
So, I tell you, Garrett, I mean, I've gotta have the Running Man on Laserdisc. They've put out a beautiful widescreen of that. And I tell you, man, this isn't a gimmick. Like, this shit, especially these '90s release, I mean, these look really good. I
Mhm.
mean, they're DVD, but way more cinematic. I mean, everything back then was director approved. I mean, it just was. That's the way
Mhm.
that's the way they handled this. That's why they were so expensive. But and this one is beautiful, I'm telling you. So there's a lot of Arnie titles that I want to get on Laserdisc. I want Jingle. Are you kidding me? I want Jingle all the way on Laserdisc. It came out. It was
Right.
available
Wow.
on Laserdisc. So there's certainly a lot of uh Arnie titles that I want to finish. And I wouldn't mind finishing Sly's stuff, but I've got basically everything from him I want to get. So, and there's some lovely Terminator, as you can imagine. There's some
I
just
bet.
amazing Terminator 2. I think there's like over 5 Terminator 2 releases. I mean, there is regular special editions, special editions, special editions. Uh, super duper editions where it's everything is approved by James Cameron, and this was before DNR was a thing, so he couldn't screw up his movies. So I mean, there's some really great releases I can't wait to look into. So I want to get foreign releases of Last Action Hero 2 because there's beautiful artwork for the foreign releases of this movie.
No, I bet. Adam's 80s fan says he'll buy my Chucky. He always wants to buy the Chucky. You know, there's actually what sucks now is that Trick or Treat Studios just announced that they were pre-orders for some new Chuckies that I want. And I don't know, I might be spending more money on damn Chuckies. But anyway, yeah, Last Action Hero. Another thing I wanted to talk about with this movie as well is not only the soundtrack, like I'm trying to remember the dates, but I was big into soundtracks around this time. And I don't know if this was just kind of one of the many that had great soundtracks at the time, or if this started that soundtrack boom. Like off the top of my head, I don't remember. Did Wayne's World come out before or after this?
92.
Okay.
So.
That was another soundtrack that was super killer at that time. And then I know like the Crow stuff came out, which was a huge hit as well for their soundtracks. Those were the big ones I had. Demon Knight was another big one. Spawn was another big one I can remember having at the time. But I just wasn't sure if that was like a big craze at the time, was, you know, just having these killer soundtracks in these action movies, horror movies, comedies, and stuff like that in the 90s. And sometimes I feel like 90s gets kind of leaped over because it was a weird transition period with like, you know, special effects and CGI, where a lot of stuff I feel like doesn't look good now, especially in the horror side of it. I feel like it just is really laughable because it was a transition period. But I also do feel like there was so many gems in the 90s that just get forgotten about because, you know, it was a weird transition period for all genres.
It really was. But that, again, this is what we were talking about earlier. I was like, it's like, dude, if you haven't tapped into early 90s action, I'm just so jealous because those are movies the first time watch. I mean, I'm so jealous of anybody that gets to watch Last Action Hero for the first time again. I mean, or hell, even anything from Arnie and from like 90 to 94. Imagine watching True Lies again for are you kidding me?
Right. Mm.
That's probably we joked on Unita. I'm like, Piranha 2 is like my favorite James Cameron. Of course it's not.
Yeah.
Do I like Piranha 2? You damn right I do. What's my favorite James Cameron movie? If it's not Terminator 2, it's probably True Lies. I mean, True Lies is so good. Are you kidding me? I mean,
Oh yeah.
and Jamie Lee Curtis is in there. That's the
Mhm.
incentive for horror fans. I mean, there's another incentive. She looks great in that movie, but
Oh,
you know, but that's such a funny, good movie. I mean, it really is. It's so fucking good. You
yeah.
know,
It definitely is. And like I said, I saw that in theaters, and it was one of those movies where I went with my parents, and because I was still pretty young at the time. And it was one of those ones where like, you know, my dad loved it, right? Like he saw Kindergarten Cop with us and stuff, and he was like, "Oh, it was okay." But like True Lies, like he was all about it. He's like, "That was so awesome." You know, and as a kid, when you go to movies and you and your brother love it, and then your parents love it too, it's like it was just very rare because I think they always felt like they were bringing us to these movies that they didn't really want to see. And another one too, I think that really surprised me, and I know we're going off the rails here, but Batman, when that came out, my dad was like, I think it was just blew his mind on how much he really loved it because I think it was like a chore for him to bring us to go see that with Michael Keaton for the first time. But I remember him leaving the theater being like, "That was awesome," you know, and it was very unlike him to give praise to movies that we wanted to see.
nice.
But it just kind of showed like how many good things were around that time. But going back to Last Action Hero as well, and like we talked about, you know, some of the big scenes that, you know, that really stand out is obviously the scenes of, you know, him in the movie theater, the New York City. Man, you know, another thing this kind of did, which, you know, they don't normally do is, you know, we saw Grindhouse and we saw all those like fake trailers, and you're kind of like, oh man, I would love to see this movie. Like, I'm still hoping someday we get Thanksgiving. I'm still hoping that someday we get Werewolf Woman of the SS. Like, I'm still in hopes that these things are really going to come out. But man, this had that Hamlet like fake dream slash trailer thing. And I was always like, man, I would love to get some kind of like weird Hamlet action movie.
Right,
Like it
right.
just, yeah, like I would still love to see it. You know, it was one of those things as a kid. I was like, man, I wish they would just make that Hamlet movie. That was Arnold. That would have been killer.
God, are you kidding me? You killed my father. Big mistake.
Yeah. And that was kind of the big mistake. I feel like they were trying to get that as over as like I'll be back, but it just never really amounted to that because they kept saying it throughout the movie, you know. And I'm like,
It's over
are
for
they trying
me,
to?
man.
It
It's
is.
over for me. Or
But
you killed my favorite second cousin.
yeah. Like, what do you mean? My favorite second cousin lives in this house.
I
And
remember
some of the
hearing you.
one-liners,
No,
he
can we
said,
can we get into it, like the one-liners? One of my
"Oh yeah, yeah, yeah."
favorites. One of my favorite. Obviously, "Here's a couple of acres" is one of my favorites, and it's not really a one-liner, but one of my favorite moments is just when when he's he sits in there. "You're telling me all those years of investigative studies, this is all I had to do is drive around and say the bad guys are in there."
Yeah,
And you
that was
see his
funny.
that big ass gap in his teeth. Like he
Yeah.
get it. He knew I know that Arnold just got that, like, when he made those faces, he's fucking hysterical.
Yeah, what is
You
the other
know?
one when he knocks on the door and he's like, "Do any drug dealers live here?" or
Yeah,
something?
he goes,
"Can I
"Excuse
speak to the
me."
main drug dealer in the house?"
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah, he goes, "We're driving around, it's a beautiful day, we're out killing drug dealers. Are there any drug dealers in the house?"
Yeah. It was, like you said, he knew what he was doing. It was so cool. And another thing too is, man, I also too, as a kid, wanted Jack Slater movies. Like, I did it in the opening for this to come onto the show. I kind of put some stuff out on Instagram about, I made a little teaser for this episode and stuff using the Megadeth song and kind of like the opening. Like that Jack Slater 4 opening was just
Fuck.
how does that not get you just hyped to shit
Well, you
to
did
see
a
that
good
movie?
job recreating it, by the way, too, for the intro. I mean, with the
Thanks,
brick
man.
wall and stuff. Oh, dude, are you kidding me? I mean, that with the Megadeth song, it's like you can't even sit down. You
No,
know?
no, and I thought of my and I always said, like, "Oh my god," like, after this movie is a huge success, I'm like, "I hope they go back and make all the Jack Slater movies." Like, I really wanted that to be, like, a real thing because, man, like, that opening in that theater scene for Jack Slater 4, I was like, "Dude, this is, like, the coolest action movie I've ever seen in my life, and it's not even real."
Oh, dude,
Like
no kidding.
it
And you
gets
remember
gets you so fired up.
when they pull up to his house? This is one of my other favorite things. He goes, "What's this?" He's like, "That's counterfeit money. It turns funny colors when you burn it. I've been paying alimony with it." It's been paying alimony with counterfeit money.
Well, then that scene at the police station where he's like, "Mhm, uh-huh, yeah, 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 yeah." Then, like, you come to find out, it's like, "I pay the girl down the
Slater!
street to call me to pretend she's my wife.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
think I'd marry someone so stupid that would listen to a recording?" He says to the kid.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that was funny. And then they show, like they show the sad side of Jack Slater's life, and his apartment is bare empty. And he's like,
Mhm, mhm.
"There's nothing in his apartment." Dude, it's like nobody lived there, and then there was a guy waiting in the closet, and he shot him. How'd you know he was there? You know?
He's always there. So
And
he
then
says
and then, I mean, of course, Slater's captain, when he
Mhm.
starts yelling at him and he literally is making no sense and they make steam come out of his ears and they just show him he's doing it's such a that was such making fun of that is an action movie trope.
Right.
The cop hero who has the commander who's yelling at him and he just sits there and takes it. Like they just brought that so over the top. I think
Yeah,
he
he
even
was
says
in,
the phrase "puppy poo" at once like the sergeant, the black guy who's in a lot of Stallone films. He used him
yeah,
in Lockup. That dude's hilarious. I forget the guy's name,
he
but he
was
was.
in, Batteries Not Included, he was in The Wizard and stuff like that, playing a very similar character, but yeah,
If
as a sergeant, he was great.
if you listen to his rant, at some point he refers to Slater as puppy poo. I don't know why, but he does. It's hysterical.
It is so funny, man. And what's the other one he says when I think the kid was saying like, how predictable he was or something, and he said something like, what is it that? Oh man, I just had it the other day. Bumber baby boomers or whatever. What does he say there? And he goes, "You
Oh
didn't know I was going to
yeah,
say that, did you?"
yeah. I remember something where he tried to trick him,
And then he says,
and
"I'll be back," and he's like, I bet you didn't know I'd say that." And he's like, "You always say that."
you
So
always
like,
say that. Yeah,
they
you
were
always say
taking
it.
digs
You
at
remember?
that as well.
And then, like, this was like so unfunny to me that it's funny when Slater gets out of the car and the kid's just like, "We gotta go do this, we gotta do that," and he's like, I need you to knock on the door first, see if my wife's here." And he's like, "She's not here." "How do you know that?" "Her name wasn't in the credits."
Oh yeah, that
She's
was
not in the
perfect, right?
movie. And then, but then he says something to him like, "Listen, kid, who does the doctor see? Patients? Look at my jacket sleeve. What is the elbow doing? Wearing thin? Bingo." Like, what? That's so long-winded to go through, but like, it's so funny to me.
And it's true though too, like with like you said, like that the aspect of that where the kid's using like she wasn't in the credits, like that was just so above and beyond anything that like as a kid, it was like, it was kind of over your head at first. And you're like, because you never see anything like that, a movie within a movie kind of
Again,
thing. And
yeah.
even his daughter was good. I thought that was a cool part, and I like that she had like that cardboard cutout like at the movie theater, like she was going to be in the next one. And I just like
Right.
everything kind of tied together. And she had that sick pickup truck with the big wheels and the freaking flames and shit like
Oh,
that.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now she was in like she's so familiar to me. Was
Mortal
she in horror
Kombat.
movies? Was she Sonya Blade?
She was Sonya in the first
Oh,
one. She
all
did not
right.
she did not return for Annihilation.
Yeah, no, Annihilation, yeah. Yeah, and I was looking at her and I said, I can remember as a kid, like she was like a smoke show when I was a little kid, and I was like, oh, but then I didn't know where else to find, like I didn't know what other movie she was in. Um,
I think she
but
was in
yeah,
Billy Madison.
she was in Billy Madison. You're right, and she was also in I think there's a couple horror movies she was in too, but I don't know
For
if she
sure.
had a big role in it. I don't know, maybe she wasn't in I know you did last summer or Urban Legend or any of those, was she? I don't know.
No, Mercedes Rule. No, that's not her name. That's the mom. Let's see. I have to find her name, but I can see what other stuff she was in because she if it was from the late 90s, she was in it.
Yeah.
She, you know.
So was it Brigitte Wilson? Wilson? Is that what someone said down here? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Oh, Dave, I didn't even see this, but yeah, I did as a kid. Anyone else have a huge crush on Earl's daughter? Yes, yes, for sure. I always wanted that cardboard cutout that they showed at the movie theater with her on it. And like we were talking earlier with Christian, and when he saw my shirt, he said, "I would love that cardboard cutout." And I was like, "Oh man, I looked online this week trying to see if I could find that cardboard cutout, and I couldn't find it." But he said he saw a video or something where someone has one, and it seems like something that'd be pretty easy to manufacture and make nowadays. Like you guys, they can do anything. So I'm surprised we don't see that more.
Yeah. She stopped that girl, she stopped acting in 2008, it looked like. That's her
Hmm.
last that's her last stuff she did. She was in I Know What You Did
Oh yeah,
last
Lefty
summer.
says that right here. She plays Michelle Gellar's sister. Hmm.
But yeah, the cool thing was they did something cool. Meredith something is her real name in the movie. I don't know why they didn't actually use her real name for.
I was curious about that too, like
Yeah,
Whitney
they
or
didn't.
something, right?
Yeah, they didn't do that. But it was cool that they did present her as in this Jack Slater movie. The cardboard cutout was her saying and introducing her name. I forgot her Meredith something is what they refer to her real name is. But it was cool that that is also legitimately her first made in motion picture is this movie. So it's kind of
Okay.
like art reflecting life thing,
Right.
you know.
Mhm.
So that's cool too. And I thought she was great in the movie. I thought she was really cool in the movie, and she was a badass too. And um, it reminds me of like when she's having a kick ass when Slater leaves the house to go think, after he he starts thinking about his ex-wife. And the guy, I was so happy when I was watching Game of Thrones because my wife made me watch it. But the main villain of this movie, besides,
Benedict.
yeah, he is like the one of the head honchos in Game of Thrones, and I was like,
Oh, really?
okay, I'll at least watch the show for him because he's in it.
Right.
He's great. He's great in that show. But you remember Benedict? If you harm one hair on her head,
Ding.
stop. And he pulls off one hair.
That's painful, man.
Then he takes the hair and he stretches it out. Bing. You were saying,
I remember when I
like
was a
what?
kid and I was like, that felt like it would have hurt so
Oh,
bad.
dude, you kidding me? And I'm thinking to myself, Danny, what are you gonna do? What are you really gonna do, Danny?
And Benedict was a cool villain, I felt like he really was. I felt like he really played it well, and he was, to me, like a scary dude. But I was doing a little research, and I guess, and maybe or anybody else in the chat knows, is that he originally wasn't supposed to be the main villain. The
No,
actual
he was
main
not.
villain was supposed to be, I think, at the end they were gonna have a swerve where the projectionist, the old guy, was like the guy that was like doing all. He basically was like masterminding the whole thing, and I thought that would have been an interesting swerve. But for whatever reason, they went a different route and they made Benedict like the main baddie or whatever. But
Right. Yeah, I remember
yeah, it would
reading
have
about
been
that.
interesting to have what was his name again? The old man, was it Danny. No, that Danny was the kid. The old man was Nick. I wrote down Nick. And that would have been kind of crazy if he came out at the end as like this big swerve and he was really like the mastermind behind everything. So but yeah, I guess there was a couple rewrites to this movie as well, going into it. But I think again, overall it did well. I wish it did better because I just feel like we've talked about it's just it works on all ends. Like it can be a family action movie, but there's still a lot of kills in it. It just might not be as gory as some of his other movies, but there's still a lot of violence. Killer soundtrack. There's some funny moments, and man, I think it's just one of those ones where more people have to definitely check it out. So in the chat, guys, right now, like, let me know if anybody has not seen this movie, and let me know what you guys feel about this. What do you got? The blue with with that VHS case. I like that one.
If nobody owns this movie, you can probably still get this, which is the only thing that sucks about this is there is no subtitles, and I have gotten to where I just constantly have to have the subtitles on. But it does have, if that's not a problem to you, this has the cool VHS style Blu-ray. And this game did get the red carpet for home media. I mean, for video games. So here's the Sega Genesis. Sega Genesis. This is the Super Nintendo Last Action Hero game. And it's a fun game. There's a Nintendo version, a Super Nintendo version, and I think there's a Sega Genesis version, but I've got the Super Nintendo version. Nintendo was really cool back in the day because like they would constantly type, like if something came out in like 92, they would rework the game to put it out on Nintendo as well, even though Super Nintendo was already in the they just kept it going for a while. I think we talked about that, but yeah.
We did. So. I was shocked to know that Nintendo was still in existence at that time. But I want to give a what's up to Brendan Hayden. That's a buddy of mine for a long time. Dude, I actually if you're just popping in here, Brendan, yeah, T1000 did make a cameo. Where was he again in this? He was in this.
Oh, he was in this. He was one of the cops.
That's what
he was one of the cops in the Danny DeVito voiced the cheetah.
It's a cartoon cat. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. So many cameos. Are you kidding? Cameos are out of the ass in this movie. I popped
Van Damme, right?
Van Damme. I did not miss this premiere for something. I forgot what he says. Chevy Chase is in here, which I was so happy to see my boy. Are you kidding me? So yeah, his wife, Arnie's wife, was in here, and she was like acting like all mean, which is funny. And Arnie's like made himself look like such a sweet, nice guy. You look just like me. We need to get together. I could give you some good work,
And didn't he screw his name up on purpose, or like didn't he like say his name wrong? Arnold figured just
yeah,
just
Arnold
a rim
Brown,
on like
yeah. Oh, and Slater's talking to him. You look just like me. You're the famous. I know you. You're the famous Arnold Braunschweiger.
Yeah, but Brendan, man, thanks for popping in, dude. I actually brought you up earlier. Well, your family, because we were talking about laser discs, and I said growing up, I never really saw laser discs anywhere, but the first time I really saw like a full collection of laser discs was at your house. Your dad had it, so it's kind of funny that you popped in here. But yeah, it was us. This is a cool one that Bobby just threw in there. If you go to YouTube and they actually tell you what happened to Brigitte Wilson. There's like a whole little story on it, so that's cool. It says, "Why is Mortal Kombat star disappeared from Hollywood?" Interesting. I'll have to definitely check that out. Jason Hill says, have you seen this boy? Yeah, I mean, he made another cameo, speaking of Wayne's World, as well. So that's interesting, too.
Yeah.
Lepke loves your Arnold impersonation.
It's not that good.
He says it's uncanny.
Yeah. I doubt that very much so. But no, for real, like, honestly, I do want people to see this movie. If you haven't seen it, I think you'll have a great time. It's the real deal. It's so good.
And just for the video store scene alone, man, it's worth it, right?
Oh, amen.
Yeah, and then what did he say? Like when he's
amen.
like,
I really don't.
There's too many beautiful women that work at the video store, and then everybody's number is like 555 something. They can't all be 555.
That's why we have area codes. The cringiest line of all time comes from Arnold in this scene, but it's fucking hysterical.
Oh, I know. It was so bad. It's almost like hard to watch.
Oh my God, you're in a movie. Yeah. She goes, I had a dream I was a movie star. Oh my God, you're a movie star? Or did you star in a movie? I did, as a matter of fact. It's called the girl of my dreams. It
And you were
starred
in it.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starred you. Ugh,
It was. It is. It's even hard to watch now. You're kind of like, ooh, we
it's
didn't we
so
didn't need
funny.
that.
Just the way he goes, "It starred you."
You ever tried that? Did it work?
No, it did not work.
That's how you met your wife? It starred you. Yeah, and then Jason Hill says Arnold can't say the curse words because PG-13. Yeah, so that was a cool
Yeah, it's
scene too, where
brilliant.
they were like daring him to, to shoot him, and he's like, "You can't kill a kid in a PG-13." Man, this was just so. It was just so ahead of its time, and there's not many other movies that have really touched upon that stuff. Now you get things like Scream and stuff, and it kind of plays in that same kind of area. But man, this was so much earlier, even like New Nightmare, right? So this was way ahead of its time.
Oh yeah, without a
So
doubt.
I mean, oh, Adam asked if we have the poster. I do not have the movie poster. I know he said he just ordered a couple. I've been looking at online for some originals that they're reasonable price. You're looking at like about $50, which is not bad for a movie that came out in '93, rolled original. I mean, it's probably one that I'll probably add to my collection, for sure. But then Adam's '80s fan talks about the dead body farting. Um, yeah, up on the rooftop, whatever. But
Mm.
yeah, guys, let us know before we kind of wrap this up. Did anything else that you want to, know about this, about ask questions? And Christian, same thing. If you want to jump on with anything else that you want to talk about with this movie, but going back to, and I mentioned this a couple times before, but not many people even ask me about it. But being a big Arnold fan growing up, if you guys don't know, my logo for this channel is actually based off something from Arnold. So not many people have actually asked me that, but I thought of that name of the channel when I was figuring things out. Is in Twins, Arnold Schwarzenegger always had this shirt that was so intriguing to me that said "Born to Be Bad," and it was this logo, and it had like a little baby on the side. And as a kid, I was always like, "Dude, I want that shirt." Like even as like an adult, I was like, "I want that shirt." And this was way before a time where like people made everything. So I was like on eBay trying to figure out where the hell this shirt came from. And I actually don't own the shirt. So when it was coming time to, me to decide to do this channel, I was just thinking of different things. And so basically that's the logo from his shirt in Twins. It's just I replaced bad with rad. So
Brilliant, brilliant.
that's how I kind of figured that one out. And I know I'd mentioned it, but not many people ask me about the channel name or the logo, whatever. But yeah, it's off Arnie.
There you go.
But yeah, man, anything else you want to talk about? And someone else talks about here is that's true, man. That was creepy. The eyeball gag. You know what else I found doing some research on trying to find some stuff from this movie? You can buy I couldn't find them, but I've seen people have them. The case, and you open the case, and all the eyeballs are in there. I'm like, dude, that would be so
Oh,
sick to have that. Like all the different like eyeballs and stuff. Like you can buy those. And I think someone posted somewhere there was like some kind of box set for this movie from another country that came with like the eyeballs and all this other
I gotta go
cool
look this
stuff.
up. I've got to go look this up. I'm gonna get.
Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely. Definitely. It's one to find. I haven't found it, but I saw a video on it. But yeah, guys, let us know if you have anything else to say. We're gonna kind of wrap this up. Christian, anything else you want to talk about about the movie that we haven't talked about? I think we've hyped it up pretty good for people to check out.
No,
It's definitely one of my
we.
top Arnold films, no doubt. And you as well. You said number
Yeah.
one for you, you said.
No, I think we did a good job. I think we covered everything. Without a doubt, it's miles ahead of anything else he's done for me. This is one of my favorite movies ever, ever. I mean, this is probably top 10 movies ever made for me. I love this movie that much. So if that's not a glowing review from me, I don't know what is. I mean, it's literally in my top 10 of all time. So that's how much I love Last Action Hero.
Wow. Yeah, that's
So,
incredible. I mean, I would really have to dig deep and really sort everything out and see where this falls for me. Definitely, no doubt, it's going to be top five for Arnold movies, no doubt. But yeah, just being a huge Arnold fan, I don't know where I'd put number one. Maybe it could be number one
this
for
is
sure.
your
But
number. You watch it again and you'll say to yourself, you know what? You know what?
it
That son of a bitch, CHH, he's right. This is it.
it was definitely one that my brother and I like really just gravitated to as kids. And I remember having the figures and stuff. I don't have any anymore, but I would love to get them again. And yeah, guys, Last Action Hero, it's really not just talking about it now, but what it's really doing for me now is just wanting to go back and check out a lot of those early 90s action movies that, even the mainstream ones, like I said, like doing the Stallone month with mid-level is going to be really good to go back and check out, some of the Stallone ones and anything else from that time frame, because it was just a really odd and great time and with movies, but I think everything was just very overshadowed by Jurassic Park at the time. So it would definitely be cool to go back and check that out. Let me see what Lepke says. He's got a big comment here. I'll try to read it up here. There's one thing I've learned in all my days that Garrett and Christian are never wrong when it comes to stamps approval. Well, hey, I appreciate that, because I feel like sometimes I'm critical about certain things, but then at the same time, I also think that I also praise things that others might be like, this guy's out of his mind. So definitely appreciate that for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, guys, so we're going to kind of wrap it up. This was Rad Recommendations episode 12. Now, I do have a couple more I'm working on right now. I think the next one is going to be Rad Recommendations episode 13, and I'm going to bring Justin from Movie Watch Daily back, and we are going to go over Teen Wolf for our next episode, which should be coming in the next week or so, probably the next week or two. And Christian is holding up that beautiful Last Action Hero Laserdisc. So if you guys like, especially Laserdiscs, go check his stuff out, because that's the one thing right now I'm really loving, because it's a format that I never got into. So seeing all these Laserdiscs and stuff like that, it's really intriguing to me. So I think it's cool that you're doing that, because it's not something that's even being done anywhere right now. So
Yeah.
I like that you're bringing that back in the fold. And like I said, guys, it was cool to get him on here. And I think it was the perfect time, knowing that, he just kind of rebranded a little bit. So it's kind of a good, little push to people that are watching me that maybe aren't just like pure horror fans, that can maybe check him out now too, because he's kind of working outside the box. So very cool stuff for sure, man. And I appreciate you coming on here tonight.
Pleasure's all mine. Pleasure is all mine.
Thanks, buddy. All right, guys. Hey, thank you guys so much. This is Planet CHH and Born to be Rad. And like always, stay rad.
Red. I'm sorry, you were waiting for me to do it?
Yeah, you want to do it? Ready?
Red.
Hey.
Red.